Do you remember in April of 2021 when all those gaming journalistic platforms started pumping out a bunch of leaks that the Switch 2, Super Switch, Switch Pro, Ultra Switch, Slap You Sideways Switch was a real thing? 6 months later, we find out it was the Switch OLED. Full of disappointment. The Switch OLED is here to update the 4.5-year-old Nintendo Switch. And it is an upgrade. Is it worth the upgrade if you're an existing Switch owner? Depends on how you use your Switch. Well, it launched underpowered, but now it's definitely under spec for 2023 in comparison to all of its competitors. But we are officially getting new Nintendo hardware. Luckily, it is going to be portable, or at least that's what the leaks are saying. I do have a little bit more information that I want to share. This is everything we know about the Switch 2 thus far. First of all, how do we know that we're getting a Switch 2? Well, well-known leaker Jeff Grubb, who has a very good track record. In fact, he was the one that basically made the first callouts of all of the features, the hardware specifications of the original Switch, and he was right to a T. But the information that he mentioned on his YouTube podcast, The Last of the Nintendogs, was also corroborated by a bunch of other leakers, and you kind of get a full picture of what this console is going to look like, which is pretty much a Switch with an LCD screen. So we're taking a little back step here, not taking the OLED route, but for cost saving measure, the same thing that we saw Asus do with the ROG Ally, as Asus did make a public statement that it was cheaper for them to get a 120 Hz LCD panel than a 60 Hz OLED panel. So for cost saving measures, Nintendo has decided to go the LCD route. I personally think that's a tremendous mistake because side by side, the difference between a standard Switch and the Switch OLED is night and day. You have smaller bezels, maximum brightness, brighter, inky blacks, rich, vibrant colors. It just looks much better. Yes, they revised some other things like the onboard speakers and doubled the storage from 32 to 64 gigs, but nobody really gives a damn. It wasn't a generational leap. It was more of a midlife refresh, something like you'd see with the PS4 Slim and Xbox One S and X. And it was such a disappointment because all the leaks that we got in April of 21 seemed to be leading us down the primrose path of getting a Switch 2, and then we got the Switch OLED, which was a step up, but it's just a midlife refresh, not a whole generational leap or anything like that. Now, I have a couple of articles pulled up that will be cited or sourced down in the description below, as I do anytime I cover any news in the gaming community or industry. Both of these are covering the same topic. There is a slew of information about this leak because it is from a reputable source, Jeff Grubb, who, like I said, has a very solid track record, and it was also corroborated by other leakers as well that didn't even know that Jeff Grubb was making these claims. So it seems like everything is falling into place. There's been zero information about the price of this bad boy. If I were to just throw a random number out there, I'm going to say a nice juicy $350. That's what the Switch OLED was retailing for at launch, and I can't imagine them going cheaper than that, although they might since they're going the LCD screen route. Probably not. I'm going to say $350, $400 perhaps. And as for a release date, everyone's pointing to the second half of 2024, and this is to allow retailers to stock up, to get a nice little stockpile of these units before there is a huge debacle like there was with the launch of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. Nintendo has basically said they're planning their launch well ahead of time, trying to stockpile units for these third-party brick and mortar and also online retailers, so there's not just a huge debacle with scalpers rushing in to scoop up the very little stock that there actually is. But it looks like you're going to be able to get your hands on one of these portable units, and yes, it is going to still be a portable console late in 2024. That's really not that far off. We're in the ass end of 23, so about a year you gotta wait for this bad boy. But when you take into consideration the Switch is already 7 years old and it was weak as fuck when it launched, we're due for new hardware. It's got that little Tegra CPU that sweats even trying to port over Apex Legends. It's running that at 25 frames per second, ultra low settings. It's just a weak, measly system processing-wise. Now, game developers still manage to pump out kick-ass exclusives such as Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, masking the graphical limitations with killer art style. That doesn't always happen to be the case. We've seen Pokemon Arceus, which was a stinker and looked like a bland open world from the PlayStation 2 era. But it looks like this is going to be a hybrid, so you can still dock it and play it on a screen or take it on the go. Now, as much as Nintendo said they wanted a smooth transition from their current console to their next, Furukawa, who's one of Nintendo's high-level executives, hinted that there may be some level of backward compatibility, but it might be limited. And this was also substantiated by VGC reports that some third-party publishers have expressed concerns that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles. I thought that take was so utterly stinky that these game developers are saying they can't produce good enough or even on-par games to classics, to where backward compatibility with Switch games is going to threaten them selling their new titles. I think that is absolutely just a terrible, horrendous take. And if the Switch 2 or Switch Pro Super Switch doesn't have backward compatibility, not only with the digital library, but also with those little SD cards that the Switch uses, that's a problem. There should absolutely be backward compatibility, because you think about all the dank banger games that came out during the Switch's generation, that's pretty much what made that console what it is. That and the fact you can take it on the go, but that's not a big deal for the Switch anymore, because now we got things like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, which run metaphorical and literal circles around that device and can play Switch games emulated. I gotta cover my mouth here, because if Nintendo sees the lips say that, watch out. Tight-assed with their IPs and tight-lipped with giving us any official information about their new console, so we have to go off leaks and YouTubers. Really all we got, not a whole hell of a lot of information, and the little bit of information we have isn't savory. The fact that we're going from an OLED screen to an LCD screen, the fact that there might not be full backward compatibility, and the fact that you have to wait another year for this to launch. I don't really care about that, because it seems like Nintendo has a strategy in mind that they're trying to stockpile units into vendors' hands, so there's not a huge launch debacle. I've overused the word debacle. I'm not trying to. It's just a good one. We don't have a whole hell of a lot to go on, and the little bit of information that's been crumb-fed to us isn't tasting very good to me. These little crumbs that are dropping to us don't taste good. If it would have been some sweet technical leaks where they're like, yeah, we've got 120 hertz OLED screen in this bad boy, and you're going to be able to dock it and play it at PS4 Pro-like performance, 4K 60 upscaled in some titles, I'd be really excited, but we haven't gotten any information like that. I do hope it has double the processing power of the Switch we have currently. This has been AK40 Kevin, aka the Controller Captain. I'll see you Stallions and Stallionettes tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at GamerHeaven. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of GamerHeaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv, where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting GamerHeaven, and I'll see you tomorrow, because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.